Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about production welding and production fabrication and how to get consistent results out of whatever you're doing. So, it's going to be the episode. Welcome to Man Time. Alright, so I'm setting up to build the piers for my new Barndominium, which are going to be where all the columns are mounted and secured to the ground. I'm going to make 4-foot long piers that are going to be cemented in about 3.5. That'll leave me about 6 inches above the floor to then weld on, the columns for the Barndominium red iron. It's a 60 by 100 with a 25-foot clear span engineered building, so pretty good size. We're going to build half of our house inside of that, and then the rest of it will be shop. And then above the house, it's basically going to be a mezzanine storage above the ceiling of the living space. So that's the plan anyway. But we're setting up the piers right now, and I've got 10 of them, so I'm going to be production welding those. I've got to cut 3/8 plate. I guess it's over here. I've got to cut pieces of plate to sit on top, and then smaller pieces of plate to run underneath, which will kind of anchor it above the ground in the cement, so that way when it's setting up and drying, it's not going to be moving around a whole lot. So that is the plan. I'm going to show you here how to set up and get consistent results using this Lotus plasma cutter. It's so far it's been pretty good. I've been using the crap out of it. This is going to be testing it at maximum amperage and air pressure. So let's take a look at what I'm doing here and show you how I'm setting this up to get a consistent result. Consistently square chunks of steel. So this the W beam that I'm using, or the I beam, is 10 inches. So I want 10-inch chunks of this to span the width of that I-beam, right? And then I'm going to have a piece of wood, this is just something I found laying around. But what I'm going to do to make sure that as I drag this torch tip across here, I'm going to line the torch tip up with the 10 inches and then move this into place against the tip, and then make a couple marks, move it in line, and then clamp it down, so that way I can just run straight across there. I'm maxed out on everything here. That's going to be our, I'm at 50 amps, and running it on its 230 plug-in. And again, I'm just going to run it straight down across here. Hopefully this will work. Alright, so now I'm measuring between the line and the board here to get my distance of the tip to the center of the torch. It's about 3/4 of an inch. So now I'm going to measure and have another straight edge up on here. Alright, there we go. Got them all cut up. One thing you'll notice with plasma cutting, you've got this edge of slag on there, and most of the time what you can do is just grab another one and kind of, hit it off of there like that. Probably use your safety glasses when you do that. But that typically will break that right up and off of there. So this is all of the smaller pieces I need. I'm going to do all of the bigger pieces. And then, before I put my tools away, I'm going to change out the consumable parts on there. which is going to be, you know, the tip, and there's like an inner and outer tip on there. Matter of fact, let me just show you how that goes right now. So there's a few main consumables on this unit, and I'm just going to use gloves here because it's probably pretty hot. There was a couple times there during cutting where I'm trying to like pierce, and I wasn't really prepared to pierce. I thought it was going to be lined up in the same hole that I had been using. But what'll happen there, you get a little bit of slag on your tip, and then it kind of starts shooting sideways on there. So we'll get these changed out. Alright, I should be safe. Yeah. And I just like to keep a little baggie of the consumables right in with the torch. And it's a pretty simple deal here. You're just unscrewing and screwing back in. So here is the result of the plasma cutting of all the W-beam. And you can see some of these are much more than just the slag. There's a big kind of lip here. So I'm going to clean up a lot of this stuff. Like right here, there's an angle where it's not going to weld flat across there. So I want to get all of this stuff that's like, you know, stopping it from being at least semi-flush taken off of there. Right there's another one, you know, where it's just kind of humped out. So we'll start cleaning those up. One thing I'm doing is I've got a piece of the steel that I'm going to be welding onto the bottom of this. And I'm putting it on here and checking and just making sure that everything is going to line up. Now there's some little gaps, like an 1/8 inch here or there, you know, I can deal with. There's other gaps that are going to be a little bit more severe, but that's one way you can check as you go and make sure you're kind of on the right path there. All that looks like I can pretty much weld it. I might give it a little bit more touch-up right in here and maybe in here to get it a little bit more flush. Well, I'm setting up to do some production welding, and the smart thing to do would probably be to build a jig or a fixture to, you know, fixture this stuff up so it seats in place and all that. But the problem is, each one of these pieces of plate isn't cut, you know, exactly right. And for that matter, each one of these ends isn't finished to exactly perpendicular. So, what am I doing? I'm using this super heavy-duty magnet. I'm grabbing a piece of plate. I'm putting it, you know, about in the center, and then I'm just sticking it onto the end like that, and then aligning it up, squaring it up, measuring to make sure that I am center line, and then just starting to weld. So the long lead item really in this process is the welding. So if it takes me, you know, 30 seconds or a couple minutes to set up and then 10 minutes of welding, I mean, I'm not really losing too much by taking those 2 minutes rather than putting it in a fixture and doing it that way. So that's the plan. Let's do some welding. Real quick with my setup, you can see here I've got like everything right here point of use. I've got the pickup truck bed, I've got the tractor pulled up. It's all about getting your workspace and workflow. You know, I've got welding stuff over here, and a B on the camera. Welding stuff over here, you know, my electrode, hammer, you know, brush, all the stuff that I need to weld over here, and then all the stuff to kind of finish and accoutrement to welding over here, I guess. You know, so that's how I'm doing it. Let's do some welding. Well, we are getting there. So this is what the pier is going to look like. I guess it's called a pier and not a footer. And it's going to be sunk in the ground, you know, about that much. So you'll have about 3.5 foot in the ground. And hopefully my post hole auger will dig that. I went and got a new bit for it, 12-inch, so I can just dig one hole, sink this in there. Of course, you got to wrap it with like a wrap type material so it doesn't rust underneath the ground. But yeah, that's the plan. The reason I'm using the stick welder is because you know, it's 100% duty cycle, and I can just, it'd be a whole lot easier, a whole lot quicker, probably with a gun. But speaking of a whole lot quicker, a whole lot easier, probably the best way if you were production welding this would be to have a fixture in a rotisserie. So you fixture it up in the rotisserie with those end plates held on and centered. Of course, you have those water cut, so they're perfect. You have these ends cut with a water cut type of system where you don't have the slag hanging off the end that you have to clean up, and you have it clean, you know, so you don't have somebody touching it up. You just slap it in the fixture in a rotisserie, and then if you're really getting smart, you'll probably have 2 robots welding each side around the rotisserie as it's spinning around there at a rate that can be welded. So that, if you're looking to production weld, that'd probably be my advice to do a job like this. But otherwise, I'm here all day welding. All right, man. Well, that was a full day's work welding. See, what was I using here today? 7018 1/8 inch on this stuff. Having the different sizes, 3/8 and then 1/4 inch on the I-beam. Just kind of running it about 170 amps on the big Miller D2 diesel-powered machine. But there you go. That's my thoughts on production welding. And if you're a young man out there going into college, you know, I might look at a trade school or engineering college where you're going to be learning how to program and manage robots, fin-up controls, and whatever other controls that they're using to control the robots. I2P or I don't know, something weird. But good job opportunity there. As you can see, the production welder isn't really a thing anymore. You're going to be fabricating if you're going to be a welder, doing probably stuff like this that's a one-off type of thing. But anyways, good skill to have either way. Get out there, have you some man time too.